My name is Lanise Hughes. I'm Rick James' original drummer. This is Oscar Alston, the original bass player. And this is my brother Nate Hughes, who's percussionist with Rick James. We're the Stone City Band. Funkin' your way.
Bustin' Out was really our second album that we did for Rick. The first one was Tina Marie's, what was the name
Wild
of it?
and Peaceful.
Wild and Peaceful was the first album. But this was the first album we did for Rick. This album, to me, is real special because I don't know what happened, but at the hotel, they got the rooms mixed up or something, and Rick and I had to share the same room. Now, Rick was my boss. He wasn't my necessarily friend. We got along okay, but that experience was something so special to me because I consider him a genius, not just in music, but even in business. I consider him somebody that really knows how to make the right calls, and that's a big theme in music and business. When you make the right decision, you stick by and you go with it, and it's right or successful, it's awesome. So this album here, he allowed us as a band, as a unit, to play ourselves in it. He had the structure of the song. Lanise would know to play the right tempo, the right beat, the groove behind it. He might show me somewhat of an idea of the bass line, but it was just an idea. Or he would just nod his head to something that he liked. Busting Out, all of the songs in there was the same way. That gave us a type of a kinship to the music that we knew we were more than just players. Right. At that time, we were like part owners of this music. You know, that was special to me.
Also on this album, my favorite group at that time was Patti LaBelle and the group LaBelle. And I was a huge fan of theirs. And on this album, we did a dedication to the group LaBelle for the song Spacey Love.
Spacey Love.
Yeah.
Wow. And he was a fan. Rick was a fan.
Oh, yeah.
That was genuine when he did that. Mm-hmm. You know, our thing with Rick was always, he was such a power of a personality that, you know, for good or for bad, it was dominating. And for us, local musicians in Buffalo, we were not the baddest, we were not the best looking, we were not anything that was tops, but we gelled as a unit so good. And at that time, a lot of bands didn't play the albums. They may play the live performance, but they didn't do, you know, and we were like so self-contained. The very guys that were on stage were the ones that played the album. There were no real, I mean, you might have violin players or extra horn players, but the rhythm section, the percussion, I mean, Rick would jump on anything to play the percussion, the drums, the bass. On none of the albums that I played on did we have another bass player. I love the fact that now he didn't necessarily pay us what we were worth, but we knew that he appreciated our work because he allowed us to do it.
Yeah.
It was his project, his name is on it. If he didn't like it, he wouldn't use it. And you would know if he didn't like it.
He's such a dynamic performer, man. But he appreciated man, when you can give him what he wanted.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
And he knew he couldn't do it, but he knew that whatever you did, if he liked it, oh man, that was money in the bank for us.
Yeah.
Because we respected his musicianship, we respected his talent, the whole 9 yards of what he did. He already had out his first album, Come Get It, which was a big, huge success. So we were like falling in line and just happy to be able to participate on any project, but especially one that was as big as this. Y'all might not remember this, we were considered, I don't know if it was after this album, one of the baddest or the baddest funk band in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
We were considered that over anybody you could think of. And to us, at one point, I don't know how long of a period, if it was a summer or a year, but at one point, we were considered the baddest. And to us, to come from where we came from, that was awesome. That was awesome.
Yeah, but you know, Barry Gordy also wanted us, man, as a house band for all his acts.
I heard
You know
that.
what I mean?
Yes.
But Rick didn't let that happen
didn't know,
because
yeah.
he wanted the sound for himself.
Yeah. I mean, you really couldn't blame him as a. We could blame him, like, man, you're holding us back.
Okay.
But for him, it was like, and to me, I've often said this story that we were not paid enough money to be independent of him totally, because he wanted us around.
Right.
When we were around, we would create.
Yeah.
On stage, when we did sound check, we would create. It wasn't anything for us to go in and jam and start a beat, and next thing you know, we have it. After a tour of live performances, from us sound checking every night, we'd have enough material for 2 albums.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to Rick. Now, his name is on everything. We don't dispute the fact that he gets the credit as the writer. But when you say mechanically, did you write these parts? No, he didn't.
No.
And we didn't necessarily, we were not, especially at the beginning, we were not like, man, you're going to have to pay us in order to play these lines. It wasn't like that. We were happy to be able to participate. We knew down the road, down the line, we're going to get ours. And that's one thing I believe right now, guys, that even at this stage of the game, we still got our talent, we still got our health, we still got our mentality to go forward with this.
Right.
And to me, I'm thinking that it's not just time to get paid, but time to really show forth our value to this dynasty, which is really what it is. And guys, y'all know, we contributed in a great way.
Oh yeah. I played tambourine and a couple of things on it, but Shandu did most of the percussion on this
Coming to my
album.
life, stormy love, and love is
Yeah.
gone. Well, talk about Shandu.
Yeah, Shandu was really a mentor. I mean, because I was on the crew, I used to set up a lot of the drums and help with percussion and whatnot. But Shandu and Rick clashed a lot.
Yeah.
And Levi used to tell me to stick around because I was gonna leave and audition with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But Levi, if it wasn't for Levi,
Wow.
I stuck around, and then Rick got rid of Shandu, and I moved into the picture.
Perfect fit.
And,
And I love that, because I often say how Rick made the right decision, and even Levi, at that point, for him to say to you, don't go nowhere. Not that you are, sitting on the wings and sticking your foot out when Shandu walked by so he can trip and fall and break his leg and you step in, but knowing, because I remember this much, being on stage with Shandu. I love him.
Yeah.
I think we were roommates at one point.
yeah.
But on stage with Rick, so much was ad-lib. So much was feeling, and when you are gelling with that, then you're it's almost like you choreographed the set. And one of the things that Shandu, and I could tell for one whole tour, he was back and forth on the stage and almost bumping into Rick on stage, Yeah, and I could tell from then that it's not going to be long. This guy is going to is going to clash. It's not going to work. And it really didn't. And I don't know how, if it was how they parted. Was it on, amicable terms? But he had to refuse. But when Nate stepped in, it was such a wonderful transition. Sometimes you would get somebody in, and it's almost as though wow, I wish we had the other guy back. Not that you know, didn't love him, but with Nate, when Nate came in, because one thing too, Nate, you was there from the beginning in another capacity, but you can see the chemistry and what it took to make it work. And I think that's what happened. I mean, you sang background on things and played percussion on things, gave ideas to songs. We'll talk about that later with Mary Jane Girl things. But the way you fit in, it was so seamless that it was almost like made to order.
But the negative side of that was I lost my drum roadie.
You lost the drum because he was your drum roadie.
Yes.
I remember one time when he busted his bass drum on stage. He put a hole in that bad boy,
wow.
You know. And I was assistant sound man out at the board, so you know I was trying to tell the sound man what effects to put on what, and they called me talking about, you know, Lanise drums is busted or whatever, man. I had to run from the board backstage. So I ran up there. I said,
duty.
I cannot take the head off of this drum. It's
while
gonna
he's playing.
take a while,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I just asked Victor. I said, Victor, give me your backstage pass, and I taped it over the hole. And
wow.
and put the foot pedal back on, and the drum set sound better than it did before.
Wow.
That's just a roadie story.
Yeah.
Hey, the show must have gone on.
That's awesome. That's fired up. We did a tour.
Yes,
that,
we
right?
did.
Yeah.
Oh, and we also did Dinah Shore.
Yes.
Introduced that album.
Yes.
Yes.
And she said he's either the punkiest funk or the funkiest punker.
Right.
She had a rough time calling it funk. I mean, with her straight up, you know.
Right.
But she loved it. She loved the music. You can see while we were performing, she was into it. Dinah Shore. Wow, that was a long time ago.
1980.
Yeah. These songs on all the albums, but these songs on this album here, Fired Up, Love Gun, Loving You is a Pleasure. Now, some songs, when you're writing music and you're writing a lot of songs in a short period of time, often songs sound similar. You might have, now the geniusness really of Rick was that he knew how to tap into the people in his group, in his band. Right. So that, now there might be a couple in here that sound similar, but he knew how to tap into an individual's personality that make it come out in the song. That's why when he changed people in the band, his music changed. It wasn't the same because he didn't totally do it all.
Right.
Fire It Up, he liked that rock and roll part. So he had the, he had that part. He was like, let's go for it with that.
That was his roots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for us, if you like it, we love it. And if we could do anything to enhance it, we're happy. And he appreciated that so much that it made us even better. And I think that's why we work so well together as a unit, as a group that he respected and he recognized. Now, here's a little sidebar. Rick would be, he would, on the one hand, try to make sure that we stayed rooted and grounded. So he would tell us, listen, I, Rick, am the only one that can bring you guys out to sound like this. Nobody else can do it. Tina Marie, nobody. So stick with me. Don't go with, because you're not going nowhere with that. So, I mean, not that we bought it, you know, we drank the Kool-Aid and bought it, but we knew where it was coming from. But we were happy because if we were not doing this, we would be back in Buffalo with some local band. You know, at least that was our mentality. Yeah. So if we can contribute to playing Come Into My Life, and we were just talking with some people in the other room, one of our most favorite songs of all time, slow, and I think Rick's slow songs were the best, was Stormy Love and When Love Is Gone.
And that was dedicated to his wife, Kelly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Listen to When Love Is Gone, the guitar solo. Tom tears it up. He tears it up. And live, I mean, Rick can he had no limits to time frame. He had no limits to what he would sing and play. And we loved that because our boss was somebody that didn't mind pushing the limits.
Yes.
And we were with him the whole way.
Yeah.
We sure did.
Yeah. Oh, man. Fun. So these songs, not to take anything away from Rick, because Rick got the credit. Rick was the one, his name is on these. But to tell you the truth, of our contribution to Rick's music is also a major part of what made Rick who he was.
Definitely.
He was us in the music.
Right.
And we were him. So, I mean, sure, we would have loved to have made money and bought homes for our parents and family. That would have, and we always felt that is going to come. Believe it or not, we still think it's going to come. Some of our family members and friends have gone on and be with the Lord, but the ones that are here, and we are here, I believe it's still going to be on us to make this happen.
Oh, yeah.
Because we made it happen back then. Of course, Rick was the singer, Rick was the front man, but we know for a fact this stuff was not only played by us, percussion, bass, and drums, but it was created by us, percussion, bass, and drums.
Right. Also, on this tour, we had KISS equipment. I had the drum risers that rose up in the air, had fire, sparklers, everything going on while I was doing my solo at the end of the performance.
Wow.
That was our introduction for rock and pop.
Yeah, Erskine contributed.
Oh yeah, the keyboard player.
Yeah.
Erskine was a keyboard player that I grew up with in Buffalo, New York, and we played in the local band together back then with JoJo McDuffie, who became the lead singer with the Mary Jane Girls. And Erskine, I grew up to know this about him. At any point, if he's studying the chords on the keyboard for whatever song, to leave him alone. If it took 5, 10, 15, a half hour, don't bother him while he's trying to structure these chords, because he knew what note to put on the high end, because that's the note that kind of stands out. And that note would fit better with the next chord. Rick, not that he didn't know that or that it didn't matter to him, but Rick was not the one to say, I want to play it like this. Oftentimes, Rick would come to us with ideas, and we, knowing music, knowing theory or whatever you would have, we would know how to switch it and change it around. These songs here was like our real coming out with Rick, because we were like, we can do this, Rick. You're contributing and we're contributing just as well. And for us, it was an ideal situation. The first 2 albums that we did, Tina Marie album and the Bustin' Out album, they were like our getting to know you kind of thing. This here was, okay, we're making a statement.
Yeah, he gave us our freedom to play.
Yeah, up to that point. Yeah. Yeah.
Rick came to me and Oscar in the rehearsal room, and he said, I got asked to hire a new up-and-coming artist, and his name is Prince. He said, you heard his new material? And me and Oscar said, yeah. He said, yeah, he sounds real good. We should have him on the show. And Rick hired him to come out on the tour. So on the tour, the first time we came to sound check, came in, we was performing a little bit, and then when we came off, we was in like watching everything while they was changing the room for the opening acts to come out. And we said, where's Prince? And he said, there he is. And we was looking, and we saw Andre Simone, Des, the bass player, and Gail, the girl keyboard player. And we were still saying, where's Prince? He said, right there. I said, where? Right in front of you. And they parted ways, and it was a shorter guy that was standing in front of him, and it was Prince. We had no idea he was that short. And he was so, isolated and standoffish. He didn't want nobody around. He didn't speak much, but later on, during that first performance, we came out and we was watching him on stage. It was like a firecracker. We was looking at their equipment. They had tiger skin, leopard skin on their Marshall amps and stuff. And he came out and he was performing, had on his trench coat, and he was, playing guitar. He was jamming, and then all of a sudden you look down and you look at his feet, and he had on high heels. And it was like culture shock. It was like it's something different. But then during the song, he loosened up his trench coat and he opened it up. He had on black bikini underwear, and that freaked the audience out and us.
No shirt.
It was strange. That was something that was really
even
different.
For us.
Yes, for everybody really, because everybody was standing there puzzled. Because we had never seen nothing.
And he was already loved. He already had his music out. So it's almost like one of those things where, especially if you look good, his whole band looked good. Mm-hmm. And if you perform well, the people accept what you do. So if you come out there with bikini, and they'll accept that.
That's what happened.
He pushed the limits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was very, adaptive. He can see, and he progressed as the tour went on.
Right.
What and how to do and to make himself better. People had always said, "Oh man, that was the best show that they've seen." In different cities, it would be Prince and Rick, but different cities would be other bands. People would say that was the best show that I've ever seen, because Prince and Rick, they were sort of similar.
Right.
Now, I don't know, you remember when I think we first came out, we almost, or at least the Rolling Stones were considering Rick as an opening act, but they didn't accept him because they said, this guy he's too much like Mick Jagger. He has too much. It was like he would make Mick Jagger work. And they didn't really they wanted to go on stage and have a good time. They didn't need any real, so they didn't choose Rick to open up with him. But Rick, even after seeing Prince and hearing his music, said, let's get him on the show. And that's another one of those executive decisions that Rick makes. And it was the right decision, because like I said, here we are 45 years later. People are still talking about that tour with Prince.
They made us work every night.
Yeah.
We had to be on our toes every night.
And the band, we really loved them. We we would hang out afterwards and enjoyed ourselves.
Right.
To us,
cool
we were just as happy to perform on stage as the people were to see us on stage. So it was a
but Prince band, they didn't believe that we played on the album.
Right.
Because they didn't play on the albums.
Right. A lot of it was Prince himself doing it. Rick tried to do. He would play. Look, after the record was already made, Rick would go, and you got timbales over there in the corner, or you got a bass amp over there in the corner. He'd jump on the bass and play, or he'd jump on the drums and play. And then on the back of the album, you would see Rick James, drums, percussion, and the engineer at one point said, "Man, Oscar, whatever you do, don't leave again," because one time I did leave, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But he said, I had to work so hard to make it sound good, because even though this is Rick's music, Rick did not have the chemistry to play the music like Prince did. We were the ones with the chemistry, and that just happened to be the fact. And if we didn't have that chemistry, we wouldn't have been there.
Exactly.
We wouldn't have been there. The chemistry on this first album, Come Get It, he had 2 different bass players, 2 different drummers, 2 different guitar players. Who were the horn players?
It was the Brecker
Brothers on horns.
Locals.
Yes.
Williams brothers.
Williams brothers, Flick Williams, Barry. What was the other one?
Steve.
Steve. Yeah. Playing. So Rick knew what he had when he finally got us, because we at that point stayed with him the longest,
right,
and was the most successful. He had already done things with the Minor Birds, and there was a guy up in Canada, not Springsteen, Neil Young and Steppenwolf. He had already been with guys that became prominent, but it wasn't short. It was short-lived. It wasn't So when he got us, now I'm not trying to blow our horn, but it's a poor frog that don't praise his own pond. So we got to tell him pretty much like it is.
Barry closed the deal when he said that's the band that should be your band when we did Tina Marie.
Yes, and signed him. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, that was one thing that he did tell us, that he said on Tina Marie's album, Wild and Peaceful, he said, before we recorded, if you guys sound good on this album, I'm going to make y'all the Stone City Band. Mm-hmm. Up to that point, Stone City Band was, like you said, musicians in town and hired hands from, New York and Hollywood. But the actual band that signed contracts with Rick was us.
Yes.
Buffalo. We actually borrowed Prince's equipment to go to Florida, Criteria Records, to record this album. We did this album in a week. Because we were actually on tour at the same time, man. And we just were on a break when we did this album. And man, you had a little accident,
Oh, see, I thought we was going to tell that little story. Go ahead, Lanise, tell him.
Well, we stayed at Barbara Streisand's house. She was down the street from the Bee Gees.
Where was this at?
In Miami. And she had this screen door which led to the back area where the water was, where everybody was fishing and stuff. It was a screen door that was very, fine. You could see right through it, and it looked like it wasn't a door there at all. One day, somebody had called Oscar in, and he came in and he walked right into the door, knocked the screen out and everything. He put the screen back in. An hour later, I come running, and I ran right into the screen door. Almost took the door off the hinge. When I did it, everybody was cracking up.
See, but I had an excuse because I was getting high. He wasn't getting high, so this album here to me is my favorite. I think out of all of the songs. Here's what happened on Big Time. We did cut the album real quick, but at some point there was a lull, and I told Rick, I'm going to Buffalo. Call me when you're ready to do some more recording. Mm-hmm. So the way we recorded was, they call it the rhythm tracks: bass, drums, guitar, piano. And we would do that, record all the songs, the whole album first. After that, go over with, whatever, overdubs and vocals and strings and arrangements and that. So we did it, and I didn't like. Now, this is a part, we had already been there for a while. We did some albums with Rick. And this is sort of the beginning of a disenchantment, with the whole Rick James thing. And so I went to Buffalo. Rick, not secretly, but he just went and recorded Big Time, and he played the bass. And that was the song. That's the only song that I didn't play bass on while I was with Rick, that, I didn't play bass on. And Tom Fly, he said, man, please, Oscar, never, when we're recording, never leave again, because I went through, hell and high water to make the bass part sound good on Big Time. I liked the song, but it was a sort of one of those things that Rick did to get back at me for leaving, because as I mentioned before, Rick wanted you to be around, because if you were there, that meant you were either contributing or you were available to contribute. So he didn't want us to be so independent that we would leave and not be around, because at that point we're not there to contribute to anything. So he did big time, and we talked about it a little bit afterwards, but it was a just a thorn in both of our sides, really, because Rick really would have really wanted me to play the bass. I would have wanted to play the bass, but to me, I had to make that statement that, you're taking advantage of me, and right now I'm not feeling it. So I went to Buffalo, and while I was there, he recorded big time.
One of my favorites off of this album was "Don't Give Up on Love."
Yeah.
And that whole sound was like something Barry White would have done.
Yeah.
It had that Barry White feel.
Oh, but you was sticking those drums, man. You was sticking
That's
those
what
drums.
I was thinking of, some Barry White.
If you listen to that song in particular, the whole album to me is nice. But the thing about that album is, even though it went gold, it was not highly accredited album for Rick, because people knew, man, Rick James, when he comes out with an album, you got to go get it. And so the album didn't do so great, and we didn't really tour long. What happened? Did they shorten the tour?
We went back in the studio.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Well, this was the album. He was in love with an island girl.
Yeah.
He got strung out on this particular island girl.
And so that's where that came from.
Yeah.
See, this is from the Heart album. People didn't want that. I want some punk. Give me some. Don't give me that puff stuff. We can get that from the Stylistics or somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
This is the Stone City Band's introduction on Motown Records. This was our album.
What's the name of it?
In and Out. The name of it, the title song, is like a movie theme song. If you listen to In and Out, you would be thinking you sitting inside a movie theater looking at the opening credits.
Beautiful
it's that powerful. This was our first album. Rick gave us total freedom. They wrote most of the material. Oscar, Levi, Tom. They were the songwriters. I was just a drummer.
He said just a drummer. But I tell you what, if you didn't hear the drums, you had to get inspiration from somewhere else. And sometimes it would be difficult. But when you heard the drums, it just automatically made you create. Now, this album here, this is Tom McDermott, guitar, Levi Ruffin, synthesizer, Oscar Alston, that's me, on bass. That's actually Rick James' jewelry, because I didn't wear jewelry at the time. And that's Lanise Hughes, the drummer, and that's Rick James right there. Lanise Hughes right there, me, Levi, and Tom. Now, In and Out, here's another thing that sort of was I don't want to say it was like this. Anytime you would go to Rick, now we're under contract at this time, by this time, we're under contract with Rick, and if Rick turned down any music, it would go automatically to Motown, because we were also under contract to Motown. So we would have to get it in writing that they didn't want the material, and then we could do whatever with it. But Rick would always want whatever you had. But we say, Rick, listen, we're doing, the band's album. How about, let's do this, or I want to do that with it. I got it. I want to, do it this way. He would sort of judiciously, meet out. Not that this song was the better song. It was like, this is my favorite, so I'm going to give him. This is my next favorite, so I'm going to give him the next lower portion. We were in the studio, and the album, he said he already had all of the music that he wants. He don't want any more music. So I'm sitting down on the bass, and the beginning part of In and Out is what I was playing on bass. I wish I had my bass here. The actual beginning of In and Out. And I can tell Rick liked it because he wouldn't stop me. Then you can see the light on the recorder in the control room come on, so you know he's recording now. So you know he likes it. He would not tell you, I like that what you're doing. You would have to glean he likes it from he didn't stop you and he's recording it. Okay. Opened up that Rick said, play that again. Now it's like, oh, it's on now. He liked it so much and he started adding things to it, overdubs, and had ideas for vocals, and it turned out to be the title track to the album. Now, I felt good because I was the one doing it, but I felt bad because the whole band wasn't in on everything and a part, but he was the boss. He had already made such great decisions in music. Who was I to say do it any differently? But I felt good, melancholy, but bad on the other end. But we were given to some degree free reign to do some things, but he pulled it back. The next album is the one where we really let loose on it. We'll talk about that. This next album, The Boys Are Back, was a sort of, hey guys, the last album we did, okay, don't take us too serious on that one. We're back. We got something better. And so that's where we are with this album. Tell them about the fact that Rick did a switcheroo.
On this particular album, we went in the studio and recorded.
The Boys Are Back. Stone City Band.
Stone City Band. This album was total freedom for the band. Most of the band rhythm section wrote this album. And it was a great record. When it got released, the single off of this song, it was a funky record. This was starting to climb the charts. All of a sudden, in the middle of this, before it got to the top 20, we came out with Street Songs. That just etched us right out the picture. Street Songs came out and blew everything out the water. The summer was our summer. That was when I knew we made it big, because we owned the summer. We took it from the Isley Brothers, because every year it was always the Isley Brothers summer. But this album, we had the summer. We recorded Street Songs and Boys Are Back. Street Songs was originally a Stone City Band album. Boys Are Back was Rick's album. He liked the recordings of Street Songs so much that he flipped it. He took Street Songs and we had Boys Are Back out.
Wow. Now the thing, when you're recording, it's almost like with just about anything else. You can tell you're doing a good job. You can feel it. When you're cooking a cake, when you're sewing something, you know, oh, this is gonna be awesome. And this album was sort of one of the reasons why he did switch was because the previous album of Rick's, Garden of Love, was not accredited really high. Right. And he knew he had to come out not only because the people wanted to hear some serious straight funk Rick James for real, but the record label, the record company, they wouldn't have been behind some fluff. Garden of Love. You come out there again with Garden of Love, you're gonna be in the garden because we're gonna cut your bed. So he came out, he just pulled out all the stops, came out with this album. Now this album, Street Songs, was such a total conglomerate of everything Rick had, that there was no reason outside of the fact that he, wanted us to be dependent upon him. there was no reason why, at this point, we had already been there 4 years or whatever, that the whole thing should have been Rick James equally, Lanise, Hughes, Oscar, everybody else in the band. Because out of these songs, I don't think there is one song, even the one that he did with Tina Marie, Fire and Desire. There's not one song on here that Rick James did all himself. I mean, writing it, the words, the music, the everything. There's not one. The songs he may initiate, which was the Call Me Up, was one. Mr. Policeman was another that he initially initiated it. But after his initial foray into that sound, we took it over and made it really what it was. There's a sort of a tempo change on the Fire and Desire. It didn't make sense when Rick first was doing it. I couldn't grasp it until we worked it and worked in the studio, worked it until we made sense out of it, and that became the song that you hear, Fire and Desire. Of course, we're not, crying over spilled milk, or we're not, trying to make it appear as though Rick wasn't the genius that he was. But the reality is, the guys that are sitting on this couch right now did some contribution to this project that made even the guy that did the takeoff of Super Freak, Can't Touch This, made him receive a Grammy. So Lanise, the last point about street songs, the Rick James thing. You remember your brother was roadie,
Right.
and now Nate, tell him about how Levi helped.
Yeah, Levi had told me to come to rehearsal because they were rehearsing for the Street Songs tour. They didn't have a percussion player. I was still on the crew. My brother's roadie and assistant sound man. So I came to rehearsal, practice with the group. Rick was on vacation, so Rick wasn't even there. We didn't see Rick until it was time to go on tour.
Is that what they called it? Vacation?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So when Rick came to rehearsal, he said, "What are they doing back there on percussion?" Levi said, "Well, we didn't have a percussion player. He was playing, the music." I said, "Okay, hit it." And that was the beginning of the Street Songs tour.
Wow. So the album after that is Throwing Down. I think Throwing Down was sort of the anticlimax. Sort of, how you get the apex of anything.
Right.
And to me, Rick's career, we didn't know it at the time, had crested with street songs. And so we did this. Now, this album has some great tunes on it. Dance With Me. Money Talks, that was a nice, funky.
Yeah.
I love that one. Teardrops. Like I said, his slow songs were the greatest. Throwing Down, Standing on the Top was this album. And that sort of gave new life. And I was so happy that it was so well received by the Temptations, by Motown, and people.
You grew up listening to.
Oh, he grew up with the Temptations. And then I believe this was the video that they did, was the first time that they had all come together. I think it was six or seven of them.
Yeah, it was
the first time that they all came together.
Yes.
So we played on a song that had Dennis Edwards, Eddie Kendricks, all of the original Temptation people.
Yes.
People that we grew up from being,
right.
I don't want to say how old we were, but we were young.
But you know, we did first take on the rhythm section when we started that song.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. And that's what I mean, the chemistry.
Yeah.
We had got to a point to where there was no stopping us. Right. Not that we were big-headed. We didn't get the big head.
Never.
But we just felt the chemistry, and we rode that wave.
Yeah.
Hard to get. Yeah. Happy. 69 times. Oh, man. And My Love, another slow one.
Yeah, that song.
We really had a great time, a great trip. But this was my last album playing for Rick. Since then, he had The Flag, and you guys helped work with and create other albums. But this was my last album, and of Rick's. After this, we did the Mary Jane Girls' first album. I played on 4 songs with that. But I got so, I don't want to say depressed, but it was like, it wasn't fun. Normally, whatever we did, whether we were rehearsing, it was the whole band. It was like a ball. You had fun. Whether you got high, whether you didn't get high, whether you were promiscuous, whether you weren't. It was like a unit that enjoyed each other. Rehearsing, getting on the bus, going on tour, it was all fun. We really loved it. So when we began to record and practice for the Mary Jane Girls album, who JoJo McDuffie, shout out to her, I actually told Rick to get her for that group. He did, and he loved her voice. But it was different. Me, myself, Levi, and Rick were walking through the airport in Buffalo, New York, going to Sausalito to record Mary Jane Girls' first album, Mary Jane. It wasn't the same. I felt a pressure, almost like a depressed state, you know. Not that I was depressed, but it wasn't the same at all. And I felt in my heart, this is not good. We went out there, recorded, and for some reason, my girlfriend at the time had given her heart to the Lord, and I, just had taken stock of what am I doing now? What's going on? I've been here almost 5 years now, and I'm not rich. I'm not getting credit for the work that I've done. And so I was listening to TV, and it just hit me about salvation, about, you don't want to die and sin and go to hell. And so I gave my heart to the Lord, and I up and quit. For 20 years, I didn't play secular music. I didn't drink, didn't smoke, until it turned out that it was almost a thought, or like God said, I didn't tell you to quit playing. So I started back playing secular music. Started even, having drinks here and there, but I didn't smoke anymore or anything. But I was in Atlanta and happened to see that Rick James and Tina Marie were coming back to Atlanta that next week. I said, I'm going to come back. I hadn't seen Rick in 20 years. I want to go see him. I want to go check it out. I didn't know how he was going to act. He could have, cursed me out. I didn't know. So I went there, and he loved it. Fell in love. God, And so he said, man, I'm going to go out, man. I want to go out again and want to do an album. And so as it turned out, I said, okay, Rick, let me call you next week. Let me, settle some things up and think about the money. And okay. So about a week or so later, I didn't call him. And I thought, man, I better call him because he said he wanted to hear from me right away. My sister called me from Buffalo. At this time, I was in St. Louis. I had visited Atlanta to see him. And she said, it was a Friday, the very day that I said, I'm going to call Rick and tell him, okay, I'll go out with you. She said, did you hear about Rick? I'm like, that's kind of a funny way to put it. I'm thinking she's going to say, he sent the plane ticket for you to fly to L.A. from Buffalo, and I'm in St. Louis, or something like that. She said, he died. God has blessed us to have our physical being. Our mental state is clear. I may not can run as fast as I used to, so you might could catch me now if you were to. But we still have the zeal to perform, the ability to perform to that same high professional caliber that we had back then. So our thing now is we have something to contribute, not just to perform Rick's music and, you know, make money from it and do what we can do, but there's nobody, and I mean nobody, that sound and can play this music the way we do, the way we can.
It's ironic, man. I mean, because when we get together, start playing, man, you know, it's just like magic. You know, this comes, you know, you just can't imagine where it comes from. It just happens.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We just start playing together like we've been doing this all the time, you know?
Yeah. And the people would say, oh man, you sound really, and it's not like we would think they're blowing smoke up our skirt, because we hear what they hear. Mm-hmm. We like it like they like it. So we know, you know, we're not, like I say, we're not trying to so much toot our own horn, but if the reality is, and the fact is, we sound as good as we did back at this time,
yes,
and the people are still around paying for and wanting to hear this music, then not taking anything away from any other tribute band wherever you are. You could be a tribute band in Texas, you could be a tribute band in Ohio, you could be a tribute band in Florida playing Rick's music, whatever your name would be, whatever it is. And of course, it sounds good because you're playing the music that we did.
Yes.
So of course it's gonna sound good, but when you want and you got available the genuine guys that you saw in that last album prior, Oscar Alston on bass, Lanise Hughes on drums, Nate Hughes on percussion, Tom McDermott on guitar. When you have that, there's no other band in the world playing Rick James music that can say the same thing as we can.
Right.
The fact that we not only recorded, we helped create it, and we also played it for Rick.
We're the closest thing you can get to Rick James. We was there from the beginning,
And still
accurate, and we're still here, carrying the
we all lived
legacy.
in the same house together.
same house.
Yes.
Hiding. 2 o'clock in the morning, Rick calling you up. Hey man, come down to the studio down here, man. And we hiding. Man, I ain't going to the studio. I'm tired.
Yeah.
You know. But we did love it, and we loved each other. Not to say that there were not issues, or, you know, not to say that there was not things that happen in any family. You're gonna have that.
Yes.
You're gonna fight.
Right.
You're gonna not agree on some things. But the one thing outside of Rick that helped and kept us together was we knew and we heard the real chemistry that we had as a unit. Like I say, any tribute band can play the music. Mm-hmm. They're good bass players, good drummers, good percussionists. They can play the music. They sound good. Not taking anything away from them. But on this planet, there's only one group that can say, this is Rick's band that played these songs.
Right.
Don't forget
Live.
the magic of Tom Fly, man.
Tom Fly, the engineer. No other engineer. Rick Sanchez, assistant. When we play Rick's music, we're playing the music that we helped create for the guy that the people want to hear. And with random lead singing, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing, and the sound is impeccable. Sound you can't beat it. And I love that part about what we're doing now. I can't wait for us as the Stone City family of musicians and singers come together because I don't think there was anything done negatively within the Rick James organization of things to make it be where I hate you. I never want to perform with you again. Don't even speak to me. I don't think anything happened that made it like that. I think the people are just making decisions on their own. I'm going to go out myself. I'm going to do my thing. This is going to be the way that I go. It's without you. Which, you know, for your own purposes is a good thing for you. But I believe people in general, they would love to hear Rick's original band perform with Rick's original Mary Jane girls, with Rick's even horn players. Right. And of course Tina Marie is gone, but someone that can genuinely sing Tina, I think that's a ticket that you can't stop. Can't stop.